Hello everybody, welcome back to another Reno-Sparks Real Estate Market Update, this time for April 2022, which means these are going to be stats and numbers and figures through the end of March 2022. Now it's an interesting time, and this is probably one of the most important updates we've done in quite some time. And a lot of that has to do with what you're looking at on the screen, which is a spike in interest rates, mortgage rates. Now, how is that going to affect prices going forward? What about inventory? Are we going to see more houses come on the market or less? Is now the time to sell, or maybe you need to wait? What about buying? Should you buy now, or maybe interest rates will come back down? We're going to cover all of those topics and a whole lot more here in just a few moments, but a few things I need to clarify first. Number one, this is for the Reno-Sparks area only, does not include Carson, Minden, Gardnerville, Dayton, Fernley, Fallon. If you do have a house or you'd like more information on those markets, let us know in the comments below. If you're on Facebook, you can write it in the comments on there, or simply shoot us an email. We'd be happy to get you those stats and figures. Now, this is for residential property only, single family, so condos, townhomes, regular homes, does not include multifamily, apartments, commercial, land, lot, ranches, anything of the sort. So really just residential properties. So let's get into it. Now, the number one thing we always look at when we start these videos, interest rates. Why? Because interest rates affect affordability. And affordability is usually calculated on what the median income level person or people that are looking to buy a home can afford reasonably as far as a house payment goes. So obviously when interest rates are lower, house payments are lower, therefore affordability generally goes up. As interest rates rise, affordability tends to drop. Now, a lot of people assume that if interest rates rise, it's going to be more expensive to get a loan, so prices must fall. And that's not necessarily the case, at least initially. Most of what we see is prices do tend to soften up, level off, maybe even fall, but it does take 3 to 6 months or more for that to start to take effect. And if you think about it, it makes sense. A lot of people already have loans locked in. Maybe they're in the escrow right now, they're getting ready to close. So stats and numbers on real estate tend to lag 30, 60, 90 days behind. So we won't know the effects of these interest rates until later this year. But one thing I wanted to point out, and I want you to remember this, is remember January 2000, or excuse me, late 2018, early 2019. You can see in January they're a little over 4, but we almost touched 5% in late 2018 into 2019. Now I want you to remember that date, because in future charts you're going to see what effect higher interest rates usually have on the real estate market. Another thing I want to point out as far as interest rates go is this is a parabolic hockey stick, just a straight vertical move in interest rates. It's actually quite shocking. I mean, you've seen a few little pops here and there, but we're talking about, a half to 3/4 point. Interest rates have nearly doubled in the last year and a half. They're at 2.5, 2 3/4. They've almost doubled in a very short period of time. Now, normally what you see when you see interest rates rise this high, and this is true for almost any market, when things go in a straight line, you usually see them level off and pull back before they march maybe potentially higher. So I would expect interest rates over the short term to pull back slightly, maybe into the mid-4s, somewhere around there, before they may actually end up slightly over 5 before the end of the year. That's been our estimation. If you go back and watch our videos, we talked about interest rates for many months because we had a feeling that they were getting ready to rise. So let's get into some other stats. Median price tends to get all the headlines. Interest rates, of course, have too, but median price gets a lot of headlines on RDJ and our KRNV and news and all over the place, because we seem to set a new record every other month. And we did so in March at 530,000. Now keep in mind, this is Sparks and Reno combined. Sparks a little bit less, Reno's a little bit more, but we're up 24%. Now I want to point a couple things out on these charts. Number one, when we say prior period, that was a previous month. So this is for March 2022. So when you see prior period, it's for February of 2022. When you see the same time last year, this would be March of 2021. So the same month, but only a year ago. So we're up almost 25% from last year, which is mind-blowing. And we're still up almost 5% from last month. Now let's look at closed sales. So these are the number of homes that sold. So in other words, they went into escrow and they closed and sold sometime in March. And so we are down 2.2% from last year, which is very minimal, only talking about a handful of sales. That was at 684, we're out 669. But we're up 38.2% from the prior period, which was February. Now this is not at all uncommon. We talked about this in February because we're looking at December and January numbers, which are traditionally very slow. So normally November, December, and January are very slow months. You don't see a lot of sales, you don't see a lot of inventory and so on, and we're seeing that now. So this jump is that's why I like to see the same period last year, so we can kind of compare year over year, but up significantly from last month, which again is not all unusual. And as you can see, I call this the EKG, right? So this is this is the heart rate monitor, the heartbeat, if you will, of the market. So you can see this constant up and down trajectory. This is wintertime, 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 wintertime. This is the peak out. Now we normally see inventory and sales follow suit. They normally rise starting in late January into February, March, and they usually peak out. Usually inventory or new listings peak out in May or June. We start to see sales peak out usually right around June or July. If we do close by price, pretty standard stuff here. We're seeing the 400 to 750 range is where most of the closings are taking place. That's kind of the bracket we've seen over the last 6 months to a year. Lower end stuff, not as many sales and not as many in the 750 to $1 million and $1 million plus. Now let's look at active. Now these are active inventory. So these are homes that are on the market today. In other words, standing inventory, ones that you could go look at and potentially purchase and write an offer on today. So 665 is the number. It's down 8.5%. We'd love to see that number a lot higher. This is really what's driving prices, is lack of options for people. We have a lot of demand given interest rates, people move into this area and so on, but we have limited supply of homes available. So this is what will start to soften up prices. If we can see this number start to rise up in here into the 1,000, 1,250 range and up, that's when you'll start to see prices really start to slow down, but we're not there yet. We're down 8.5% from last year, and we are up 14% from last month. Again, not all that uncommon given the time of year. If you look at active by price, it's pretty much across the board. I mean, we have mostly from about 4 to about $1 million is where most of the inventory is. But pretty much stretched across the board. Now, new listings. Now, I know I just went over active listings and new. People are saying, what's the difference between active listing and new listing? Well, a new listing just means this is a total number of homes that were listed in March. So somebody put their home on the market and put it up for sale. So that's all it is. Active means it's ones that are currently still available. So some of those 800 homes clearly sold. Now, if we look at new listings by price range, you can see those new listings are coming on the market again, 4 to 750. Is pretty common. Now let's look at if it's a seller's market, buyer market, or stable market. So just for review, a seller's market means sellers have pricing advantage, means they have properties and they have way more buyers than there are sellers out there, meaning sellers have the advantage because if you want to buy the house that I have, there may be 2, 3, 4, 5 buyers for every house. That's what makes prices go up. That's what we're clearly in as a seller's market. Now, a seller's market is usually defined by anywhere from about 2.5, 3 months and less inventory on the market, okay? Now, buyer's market is the opposite, right? Where there's a ton of listings and homes on the market, but very few buyers. So each buyer may have 3, 5, 10, 15 homes to look at. Therefore, sellers have to be a little more aggressive, lower their price, and be a little bit more negotiable when it comes to pricing. Now, that's usually about 3.5, 4, up to about 6 or 8 months and beyond. That's really more of a buyer's market. And a stable market is right around that 2.5 to 3.5, 4 range, right in there. It means there's usually an equal number of buyers and sellers. Now, we find ourselves clearly in a seller's market, and we have been for quite some time. We only have 1 month of inventory. Now, what this means is, let's say there's 1,000 homes on the market and 500 sell on our market a month. I'm just using round numbers. That would be 2 months of inventory. 1,000 homes, 500 a month. It takes 2 months to sell the 1,000 that we have on the market. This is where we would like to see this number hit this range back in here. Now I want you to notice something again. This is late 2018. You notice the spike here in inventory went over 4. It quickly turned down here from looks like March, April, and May. We had only 2 to 2.5 months of inventory in the market, and look what happened when interest rates started to rise and spike. We quickly got well over almost 4.5 months. So we went from a pretty good seller's market to a slight buyer's market at that point, all within a period of 3 to 6 months. So this is what happens when you see interest rates rise. Now, we haven't seen that play out yet, but I would expect this number to start rising. Now, will it get all the way up to 3.5, 4? No, not at this point. It might take some time to get there, but we could see that number get to 1.5, 2, maybe even 2.5, which would start to have prices pull back. So the question is, when we opened up, is it time to buy or sell a house? It's all relative to your situation, of course. Now, obviously, if you have to move, maybe you're getting relocated, maybe you have no choice but to sell, then obviously you have to sell when you have to sell. But if you have some time, you do have some choices. In this case, my advice would be, if you want to sell and you need to sell and you're ready to sell, get it done sooner rather than later. Inventory is still low. interest rates are going up, which usually within 3 to 6 months has an effect on pricing. If you're in upper end price ranges, just understand that you're not going to potentially get, you could, but most likely you're not going to get 2, 3, 4 offers, 50,000 over asking price, and all the craziness we've experienced over the last couple of years. You're probably not going to see that if you got a house that's 750, 800 and above that you're trying to sell. Because remember, we saw those inventory numbers, active numbers, and there's a whole lot more active up in this upper end price range up here. So you have a lot more competition. So it all depends on your situation, but as always, if you have any questions regarding your situation, you'd like to get more specific valuation, fill out this form here below. You can find all of our phone numbers right here on the screen. If you're thinking about selling your home or potentially buying, we'd love to talk to you. If you've never heard about Assist to Sell, we are a full service real estate company, meaning we show your house, advertise it, put up a sign. We take care of everything you need an expert local real estate agent to do. We just do it for thousands of dollars less. In this market where homes are selling the way they are, there's absolutely no reason to pay a huge commission. Don't pay 4.5%, 5%, 6% or more to sell your home. We can sell your home for only 1%. Give us a call, 688-6060, area code 775. Hopefully you enjoyed this. And again, if you have any questions, let us know. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Assist to Sell, way smarter.